I have two assignments, both very pleasant in a sense. One is to greet the dignitaries who have joined us. First, of course, to express appreciation to His Excellency, the Deputy Foreign Minister, our good friend, Ambassador Ayalon, Ambassador Prosur, and the Deputy Permanent Representative Chaim Waxman, the representatives of the UN mission and of the Israeli Consulate, Ronald Lauder and Dan Diker, the Secretary General, Richard Stone, the Chairman of the conference, and joined by Ken Bialkin and Harold Tanner, two past chairmen, representatives of JJAC, and there are present many elected officials. I'll quickly run through their names. I hope you will excuse us for not taking the time to give you individual applause, but we collectively appreciate greatly your presence. Arlene Hooper, the Deputy Speaker of the New York State Assembly, City Council members Brewer, Crowley, Greenfield, Jackson, New York State Assembly members Brian Kavanaugh and Mika Kellner, Assemblyman Rory Lantzman, Felix Ortiz, William Scarborough, Michael Simanowitz, and David Weprin, from the Office of the New York City Controller, Pinchas Kuykend, and the Officer of Senator Gillibrand, Emily Hyams. We also have here many ambassadors and other members of the UN Diplomatic Corps, and we are extremely grateful for their presence. The ambassador, the permanent representative of Palau, Stuart Beck, the ambassador, permanent representative of Hungary, Csaba Korosi, the ambassador and permanent representative of New Zealand, Jim McClay, the ambassador, permanent representative of the Dominican Republic, Carlos Michelin, the ambassador, permanent representative of Canada to the United Nations, Guillermo Rushinsky, the ambassador, permanent representative of Slovakia, František Ruzhinka, the ambassador, permanent representative of Germany to the United Nations, Peter Wittig, Mark Neo, the deputy permanent representative of Singapore, Saul Weisleiter, ambassador, deputy permanent representative of Costa Rica to the United Nations, Danis Balbalis, minister counselor, permanent mission of Lithuania, Javier Sanabria Valderrama, minister counselor, permanent mission of Spain to the UN, Asif Parbs Amin, counselor, permanent mission of Denmark to the UN, Aaron Corman, counselor, permanent mission of Palau, Nicholas Weberg, the counselor, political affairs of the mission of Sweden to the UN, Hanneke Borma, the first secretary of the mission of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, Tom Nijgens, who is the first secretary permanent mission of Belgium, Jared Potter, first secretary Australian mission, Francesco Santilla, the first secretary of the permanent mission of Italy, Hendrik Sella, the first secretary of the permanent mission of Germany, Roberto Storassi, the first secretary of the delegation of the European Union, Rita Herenshire, the third secretary permanent mission of Hungary, Gail Horak, political advisor at the United States Mission to the UN, Millie Myers, Director of Special Projects, U.S. Mission to the UN, Teresa Finnerty, Advisor, U.S. Mission to the UN, Anne-Claire Legendre, Advisor on Lebanon, Syria, Israel, Palestine, Mission of France to the UN, and Nicholas Stilianou, Advisor, Permanent Mission of Cyprus to the United Nations. We thank you all very much for being here. Now you can... And also, I want to acknowledge Minister Cutler, Member of Parliament, who's here, Rabbi Abadi, the other speakers who will be joining us. It's a true tribute to this issue. When I came in today, somebody asked me, what is the goal? Why are you doing this? And to me, this meeting is not about restitution or reparations. While these are important, those issues are for later. This is time to talk about justice. Justice overdue, too long denied. It does not demean another's history to recognize the truths of our history. They are not exclusive or competitive. To denigrate others' history, faiths, or beliefs demeans those who propound such views. And it does not change the facts. So we owe to those who have waited so long and the many who are no longer here, we owe it to their memory, we owe it to justice that we speak for them. Peace cannot be built on lies or distortions. We need to heal the wounds, and Jewish suffering can no longer be ignored. This is long overdue. The recognition of the plight and plunder of almost 1 million Jews, more than 800,000, and some say even more, people more than 65 years ago. This is a matter of historic and contemporary justice. This is not just about politics, except on the part of those who seek to denigrate or deny the existence of this refugee population. Even this past week, we saw an article published by a representative of the PA that claimed that Jews who emigrated to Israel are not refugees. This is a form of deception and delusion. They were not kept as refugees, but what people more exemplified refugee status. That is precisely why this gathering and similar events, as well as an ongoing educational and advocacy campaign, are so important. For the record, the United Nations Human Rights High Commissioner for Refugees, as Stan Ehrman pointed out to me, twice acknowledged that the Jews fleeing Arab countries were legally refugees within the mandate of the UNHCR. The difference lies not in their legal status, but their treatment. They were absorbed as quickly as possible by the fledgling and cash-strapped state. Ashrawi claims the Jews came voluntarily, pressured by Zionist groups, when it is clear that there was a planned campaign to deprive them of their rights, their property, and their citizenship. The evidence has come to light clearly, conclusively, that the Arab League devised a sinister and vile campaign that was then spread from country to country, even into the Farhud in Iraq. Since 1947, the United Nations General Assembly has focused on the Palestinian refugees. 1,088 resolutions on the Middle East conflict with 172 on Palestinian refugees, none on Jewish refugees. Numerous UN agencies and organizations were mandated or created to provide protection and relief to Palestinian refugees, none for Jewish refugees. Over the last 58 years, tens of billions of dollars have been dispersed by the international community for services and assistance to Palestinian refugees, not $1 for Jewish refugees. There were no UN resolutions, no support from UN agencies, no financial assistance from the international community to ameliorate their plight. In all the relevant international bilateral agreements, the reference to refugees was kept generic, allowing for recognition of all Middle East refugees, Jews, Christians, Muslims, all. Recognizing rights for Jews displaced from Arab countries is a call for truth, a truth too long hidden, too long denied, and essential for any movement to peace. ECOSOC passed 122 resolutions, 58 of them on Palestinian refugees, 0 on Jewish refugees. The UN Human Rights Council passed 132 resolutions, more than 51 dealing with Palestinian refugees, 0 on Jewish refugees. There are 4 resolutions adopted annually that deal with assistance to the Palestinian refugees, persons displaced as a result of the 67 and subsequent hostilities, the operations of UNRWA and other organizations, and the property and revenues of the Palestinians. If one reads the languages of the resolutions, you see that they are equally applicable to the Jews. The Arabs used the UN as a platform to threaten Jews in Arab countries as a political weapon against the new state of Israel and later the existing state. Look at the comments made by the Egyptian delegate in '47, where he warned the fact that the proposed solution might endanger 1 million Jews living in Muslim countries. Partition of Palestine might create in those countries an anti-Semitism even more difficult to root out than the anti-Semitism which the Allies were trying to eradicate in Germany. There are many such statements, and I won't take the time now, but the record is clear. Iraq's foreign minister issued a direct threat saying that the masses in the Arab world would not be restrained and that relationships between Arabs and Jews would greatly deteriorate. The assault on human rights was initiated by his own government, including a series of discriminatory decrees against Iraq's Jewish population. There were a number of seminal multilateral meetings amongst Arab leaders where additional indications that this was a coordinated campaign, a coordinated strategy. Even the New York Times made reference to it and said that the discriminatory measures recommended by Arab League against the Jewish residents of Arab states, and goes on to describe this campaign against the Jewish minority, citing that the resolution calls for their bank accounts to be frozen, used to finance resistance to Zionist ambitions, and that those Jews believed to have Zionist tendencies to be interned and their assets confiscated. What is striking about it is that it talks about Jews as Jews, based on their religion. The law was prepared by the Political Committee of the Arab League and implemented. This was a coordinated campaign. We see evidence in many resolutions, many reports that came out. The Council of the Arab League unanimously adopted the recommendations of the Political Committee, and the blueprint for country-by-country implementation was set. There was manipulation by the Arab delegates at the UN to thwart discussion of the plight as early as the 1948, and subsequently on many occasions when the issue was put up, they got it to be taken off the agenda, never to be repeated again. They used threats to influence UN decision-making. They misled the UN on the treatment of Jewish populations, denying the persecution and saying the Arab Jews were quite happy in their own countries and did not wish to leave. Jews left freely and were not refugees. They misled them on statistics. They misled on the facts and denied the reality in an attempt to keep this issue off the agenda. And they utilized procedural motions of many kinds to draw attention away from the Jewish refugees. In the aftermath of the '67 war, the Security Council adopted Resolution 237, which called for the protection of civilian persons in time of war, and it examined the plight of Palestinians and Jewish civilians in Arab countries. 1 year later, that resolution was amended to remove the Jewish refugees. They have deflected the UN debate repeatedly in an attempt to deny the issue. The Algerian ambassador in 2003, we remember his horrific references to the Nazi-like behavior in denying the rights of Jews, challenging the UN authority to deal with the issue repeatedly. These manipulative tactics, initiated by Arab representatives, have a cumulative and relentless effect on UN policy and action, on UN credibility. To restore the credibility of the UN, to restore justice, to restore the rights of these 900,000 people, it is imperative that this event be a beginning, not an end, that we all walk out of here committed, representatives of all the countries who are here, to reach out to their colleagues, to help rectify this long overdue injustice. It will restore credibility to the UN and restore rights to those who have been denied them. And I just want to end by introducing the Ambassador of Bulgaria, Stefan Tavrov, who is here as well.